Book Dragons, I'm back. I'm here to do my mid-November wrap-up. November was a bit of a weird month, the first half. It was weird. We're still dealing with the effects of that, but I have been reading a lot. I did go to Y'all Fest. We had a few days off, so I'm going to kind of go through the 9 books I read in the first half of the month, and then I will do a wrap-up at the end of the month. But we are heading to the end of the month, so I don't know how many books are going to be in that wrap-up. But I also do have like 4 days off for Thanksgiving, so it's possible I will listen to a ton of audiobooks. That is always the hope. But yeah, let's get into it. So I have read 9 things this month. I read 3,321 pages. Of the amount of things I read, a lot of these were pretty big. So I read on average 110 pages a day. I read 369 pages. My most read drama is contemporary, which is not a big shock because I do tend to listen to a lot of contemporary books, and a lot of those, and my romances too are contemporary. So I guess I did have a lot of contemporary this month. I read 1 book with rep and 8 from authors I read before. It's been a very previous author month. And then I had 2 5 stars, 7 4 stars, and that's it. So for an average rating of 4.22. I read 5 new releases, none from last year, and 4 backlist. I was unsure how to count Ashes of the Star Cursed King and 6 Scorched Roses because they came out last year, but they came out for Bramble this year, so I didn't know really how to count that, but that's okay. And then I read 0 physical books. I guess I did. I did read 0 physical. I read 7 audiobook, 1 mixed media, and 1 ebook. It was a very audio heavy month, and I also have listened to a lot of Kelly books. I started 1 series, I continued in 1, I completed 1, I caught up in 2, and I read 4. And then I read 4 companions. I read 6 on Audible, 1 NetGalley, 1 owned, and 1 from Everand. I read 2 fantasy romance, 3 contemporary, 2 mystery, 1 romance, and 1 YA contemporary. And I think that those are all my stats. So let's go into the books I read. And just as a number, I'm at 186 books so far this year, which is pretty exciting. And I'm happy to do that I did that. So the first book that I finished was, mostly thanks to Comic-Con, was 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent, and I read this. This is the mini novella in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and I really did like this book. I thought that it was a fun read. I liked seeing Lilith's character, and you also do get to see her in the other book in the series, like the next book. So it was nice having this background, and I really did like their romance. It was fun, it was cute, it was quick, and I don't normally like short books like this because I feel like it's really hard to build tension and stuff. But I did like it because it was in a world that has already been developed, and I really did like the romance in this. And then we saw them in the subsequent book, so I was happy that I finally picked it up. And yeah, I also got this signed by the author at Comic-Con, so I got to meet her as well. So that was kind of cool. So and this book is like a 4.5 star read for me. Really, really solid. And I do recommend you read them relatively close together because I think the information will be better. And then I jumped into Ashes, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then the next book I read was The Playbook by Rebecca Genchak. I will attach a photo here. The second book in the Holland Brothers series. The first one I loved because it was motocross. This was football, I think. Yeah, I think it was football. And she's basically got his whole P.O. box, and people are sending him fan things, underwear and stuff, and she's really, really displeased with the situation. And then they kind of have to, unfortunately, fake date or something. I think it's fake dating. I can't remember. I read this so long ago. It feels like a long time ago. But I remember enjoying it. I had a fun time. It has some interesting rep. I'm really excited to see where book 3 goes. But I had a fun time. The remote was fun. I don't think I liked it as much as Burnout, but I really did like the characters, so that's really, really good. And the next book that I read was Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent, which ended out the duology, and this is my pretty, I actually just got this in the mail. This is my pretty, Owl Crate edition. I will say this book I suffered a little bit reading because I did read it right in the middle of the election, and I just think my focus kind of sucked. So I only gave this book 4 stars, and I think that was honestly just the length. Like this book was 564 pages. The audiobook is like 664 pages. So I think my focus was a bit off. I don't want to talk too much spoilers, but I will say that I really did like the duology. I like Carissa Broadbent's writing style, and I was happy to continue it, and I was happy to get another series off my shelf, especially one that I do have special editions for. So, yes. I'm really excited to read the new book. It's about Misha, who I love. We got to see her more in Ashes, and I really am excited to see what her romance does. So, these books both were 4 stars, and I really am excited to keep reading by this author in the future. And then the next book that I read was, I did like an audiobook weekend. I was doing a lot of Christmas crafting. Sorry, they got an email from work. But I did an audiobook weekend where I was like, I think I had a Friday off. Yeah, had a Friday off. So I had like a 3-day weekend. And I think I just was really determined to finish my Christmas crafts. I didn't finish all of them, but I got pretty close. So I did a bunch of audiobooks. So I picked up Murder in the Family by Kara Hunter. I gave this book 4 stars. I would highly, highly recommend the audiobook for these series, because these 2 books I'm going to chat about. And the next one, because the audiobook was just the highlight. But basically, it's like, you're listening to like kind of like a Netflix TV show, a documentary about a true crime case. Luke Ryder, a stepfather of the acclaimed filmmaker Guy Howard, was found dead in the garden. And these 6 experts come together to kind of solve this case. And you kind of have all of these things that kind of figure out how did Luke Ryder die and who killed him. And I listened to this in like a day. This was my book for Pokemon, where I read all of the, I read the whole book in one day, and I just devoured this. So this was very much like a Christmas crafting book where like I liked it. I thought it was very, very surprising. I sort of called one twist, but not the end twist. But I really liked the audiobook experience, so that was super fun. So I gave this book 4 stars. And then I picked up the audiobook from Everand of The Examiner by Janice Hallett, and I love this book. This book I gave like 4.5 stars. Again, I exclusively listened to the audiobook. And the one thing I will tell you about Janice Hallett's writing style is she does tend to do the same tropes over and over again, because all of her books are told in found format. So I've read, this is my 3rd book by her, and I do see a pattern in her writing. She tends to use the same twist multiple times, because a lot of it is, everything is told through like some type of found media. Like this was told through chats on this thing called like this, basically their version of like Google Classroom. So it was interesting, and you basically have this in like an art PhD program, and there you're going through this thing, and you're kind of seeing at the end of the project, and someone is dead, and you have to figure out who is dead. And it was interesting. There is some rep in here. I don't want to tell you what the rep is, because it's a pretty big spoiler for the end. But I had a really fun time listening to this, and it's very like dark academia, but also like just academia, and just like it was very, very interesting. But there is a murder, and you have to figure it out. And I really did like this book, so I gave this book 4.5 stars as well. But I had a fun time with it. And then I also picked up maybe, I think this may be Another Time. Oh, it's called Maybe This Time by Cara Bastone. I will attach a photo here. This is a really, really quick, like, novella. It actually got nominated for the Goodreads Choice Awards, which, you know, I'm really happy about. I've also, like, after this book, I pretty much exclusively am reading Goodreads Choice Award things, so I'll kind of talk about that when I get there. But I love this. This was like a really, really quick novella about sort of like time travel. It is an Audible original, so I definitely recommend you pick it up, but it was fun. I've loved Cara Bastone before, and I think the production value on the audio originals are really, really fun. But basically, you have these two characters that are kind of stuck in a time loop, and they're all talking on opposite sides of the time loop, but they're talking about the people in their time. So, like, you have this girl, like, gets 50 years in the past, and she's talking to this guy in the present, and he's interacting with the girl in the present that he's talking to. I know, it's a little bit confusing, but I had a really, really fun time with it, and I gave it, like, 4.5 stars. So another solid audiobook chance. And yeah, I definitely think more people should listen to this one because it was super fun. And then the next book I read was the start of my, Goodreads Choice Award reading, pretty much. And the next book I read was The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center, and I'll attach a photo here. I read this over my trip to YALLFest. I read it like that weekend, and I love this book. I gave this book 5 stars. I devoured this book. Like, it was so fun. And I've loved Catherine Center's newer books, like, as well. Like, I have thoroughly enjoyed them. So it wasn't a big shock that I like this one as well. But, so this book was basically about this girl. She is a screenwriter, or like a screenwriter. But she doesn't have a whole lot of credits to her name. So her ex calls her up and says, hey, I want you to go work with this big director and kind of fix his script. He wrote a really, really bad rom-com, and he needs your help. And this guy is, like, very, like, adamant that he doesn't need her help, but he goes there, she helps him, and things kind of go from there. And it was fun. I love how Catherine Center's stories are always a nice balance of emotional, heartfelt, and funny. And this one had a lot about, like, character dynamics. It also had a lot about found family. It also had a lot about life, the beauty of life, but also the sadness of life. And I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. And I really don't know what I'm gonna obviously see, like, what gets to the final round. But this may be one of my favorite romances of the entire year behind, just for the summer. So, but yeah, I really had a fun time with that. And if I didn't touch a photo, I'll touch it here. And then the next book I read was A.E. Arc, that I was trying to frantically finish the smaller books because I know a lot of my other reading for the rest of the year is pretty much going to be like Goodreads Choice Awards and just like, starting some 2025 arcs and holiday romances. So I decided to pick up Better Than Revenge by Casey West. This comes out, I think it comes out in late December. It may come out in early January, but here's the photo of it. I read this on my trip to YALLFest, actually on the way there, I think. And this one basically follows a girl, and she really wants to be a part of her podcast team at school, and she's waiting in line with her boyfriend, and he tries out, and he gets the spot. And she really wants revenge. And I'll be honest, I'm not always the biggest fan of revenge stories. Like, they're not my favorite. But I did like the romance in here, so she decides as her revenge that she is going to go out for the kicker on the football team and kind of usurp his spot because he took her spot that she thinks is rightfully hers. And it was a fun time. It was cute. There was a lot of side characters I liked, and I just enjoyed it. So I gave it 4 stars, and if you're looking for a kind of a fun, quick romance, I would pick it up. And then the last book I read in this part was Wild Love by Elsie Silver, another Goodreads Choice Award winner, and I'll attach a photo, or nominee, and I'll attach a photo here. This is another one that I just had a really fun time with. So this is the first book in the Rose Hill series, and I have not read anything in this series. But I was intrigued by this book, and I actually really liked it. It was very, very unique and very, very different. You basically follow a main character named Rosie, and she kind of got fired from her job, so she's going back to her small town, and she kind of sees her best friend's, her brother's best friend, and he winds up unexpectedly learning he has a daughter. And he's going to help with the daughter, but he also needs help getting his record company off the ground, and he winds up hiring his best friend's sister to be his, like, receptionist. and things go from there. And I had a really, really fun time with this one as well. I like the unique take on a single dad romance because technically he was a sperm donor and that was kind of how this happened. But I really like this book. I'm really excited to read Wild Eyes. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I would really like to read that one. And yeah, so I don't really have a lot to tell you other than what I did. Stress watched all the election content, which was very, very disheartening. And I went to YALLFest and I started watching General Hospital again. So that's really all that I want to share with you. But I will be back at the end of November for the second half of my wrap up. I hope I could tell you I have read a ton of books. That is the hope. We will see how successful I am. But I will talk to you guys for another video soon.